Welcome to the Warhammer Skull Session. My name is Rob, your host, and I'm joined today by my dear friend and co-host, Mason. How's it going, Mason?
Going well, Rob.
Oh man, that's awesome. Today we're going to talk about, do you really need a Shooty Army to have fun in 40k? But before we get into our main topic, we're going to start off with a little bit of hobby progress. Mason, what's on your desk?
Well, I've got finished the first 5 of my enforcers after spending a whole day just painting the yellow. So now I'm starting on the next 5.
Nice. Nice.
So hopefully, and so kind of just trying to chug through all these and get them ready for the battlefield.
Very nice. He's preparing for Necromunda. Seems interesting. And those are my favorite band out of all of them. They just look so cool to the Enforcers, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to when the new, they have one, I think it's another kit that's going to drop where it's a investigator with a dog.
Ooh.
And I plan on picking that up just because I like the Cyber Mastiff and the look of the investigator.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. As far as me and my hobby desk, I have been editing videos for the last week straight. So I have a month and a week worth of videos, and then I have like one more before I can get into painting. So I'm working on video editing, just nothing but video editing. And that happens.
But you had gaming progress, which would count as hobby progress.
Okay, well, if that is the case, then on Saturday, Mason and a couple other friends came over. It's our gaming group, and we played Rock'em Sock'em Robots. What that means is that we had Knight Titans versus Custodes. An interesting list that was itself. So as far as the Custodes, I know they had some Forge World stuff. What was in there?
I think it was all Forge World.
Oh, nice.
It was. Let me pull up the names because they're Custodes Dreadnoughts, so they have very weird names. All right, so it was a Shield Captain.
Shield Captain. Oh, nice.
2 Contemptor Achilles Dreadnoughts, which I believe, they were the ones that had the spear. 2 Contemptor Gladiatus Dreadnoughts, which were the sword and board ones, and 1 Telemon Heavy Dreadnought, which had both fists.
Nice. Nice. And I had my Wolfie Knight Titan, the Hawk Shroud, but done wolfified. And you brought what was that?
A Gallant.
A Gallant, yes. A Gallant.
With Relic Power Fist and the Warlord trait of the Knight Seneschal. So she was swinging with 6 attacks, 7 on the charge.
Nice. Nice. And he lifted up one of those dreadnoughts and threw it away.
Yeah, she got work done.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. She was tearing up the battlefield. I started out, we had first turn, and I had terrible rolls. Like I wasn't hitting anything on mine. Did not perform well. But the rule is, if it's really, really, really well painted, it's going to just do very poorly on the battlefield. I think that's what it was. That was her maiden voyage to that one. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because I've never played the Knight Titan, and I had her painted up for a year now, and never put it on the battlefield. So I was honored that I got to use the Knight Titan, which is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and they're always fun to do, especially that matchup where it was a lot of, it kind of swung one way then the other really fast.
Oh yeah.
We had some very hot dice.
Mm-hmm.
Some like the hottest dice I've ever seen. I think it was when I hit rolled 3 6s on the rocket launcher for Overwatch.
Oh yeah.
And just blew him away on just the third or fourth one away on the charge was just
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outstanding. Outstanding. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to get together with the boys. Hopefully we can have, well, we're going to have a lot of fun for the next game that's coming up. It's excellent that I got into a gaming group because for a while I was being very, very disheartened in the hobby because I just didn't have anybody to play with, and I was painting all these miniatures for the sake of painting them for about 3 years now, and I was like, I would like to use these things and actually know how they work. So I've been learning. But it's cool. We're going to test out 9th edition. So it's just going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of playing on the table, Mason and I are going to be working on an Age of Sigmar battle report, which is going to come to the channel. So we're going to be working on that as well. So exclusive. Finally, I get to get battle reports on the channel like I've always wanted. So everything is prepped and ready to go. Now, we are
The audience will get to yell at us at all the rules we get wrong.
That is fine. I don't mind. I don't mind the interaction, to be honest with you. Correct us, yell at us, you know. I mean, hey, that means you watch the video and you care enough to want to make it better. I mean, that in itself is pretty epic. So I'm honored. So there you go. Besides, we're just two guys trying to have some fun and figure the game out. But I hear Age of Sigmar is easy to get into and very straightforward and intuitive, so we'll see. We'll see. Alrighty. So let's go on, if there's nothing else, to the news. Let's check that out. Alright, here we have, let's start off with the Crusade. I'm on 2 for some reason. No, let's start off with the Rumor Engine. Let's go there. Alright. Rumor Engine for the 14th of July 2020 is... Yeah, I see hooks in that hair, so I'm thinking Drakari.
Probably all I see is something that might be easily snapped off or snack on stuff.
I mean, of course, there's that. So,
and I'm like, those little hooks, that's... those look like things that are going to snap off pretty much constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But it also could be a piece of terrain. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be new Harlequins and like long hair. No, but that's more Yunari, isn't it? Yeah, I know.
With the hooks, it doesn't look kind of Drakari, like fetishy enough to be Drakari. So I'm guessing it might be something AOS, like an AOS faction. Like, could be an unseen character for the Realm Lords or something like that.
Okay. Well, I see fish hooks, so I'm thinking, you know, something to combat the sea elves. What are they called? That's right, the Idanet Dekem. So here are the Fisher of Idanet Dekem. I read in the lore, since I run Flesh Eater Courts, I read in the lore that the Flesh Eater Courts are so crazy they're unaffected by the psychic shenanigans of the Idanet Dekem. They literally said that in the lore that I was reading in the Battle Tome, so I don't know how that's going to play out. Guys and girls, if you're watching and you know about the Idanet Dekem and you know about Flesh Eater Courts, is there an immunity that I'm not seeing? Let me know. Comment down below. All right. So there's rumor engines or guesses. Let's look in what we missed. If you missed the Indominus set. Now, I was lucky enough to snag a pre-order from one of the local game shops due to a friend, I think, calling the local game store. Or, checking out their Facebook post and said, "Hey, Rob, do you have the Indominus box set?" I'm like, "No." And it was like, and I missed it and they're sold out. And I'm like, "Well, why don't you try here?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." I don't even get it, but I got it 15% off pre-order prices. Love it. But if you did miss the Indominus set, all I have to say to all you scalpers out there that buy 10 to 20 boxes and completely like muck up every release from Games Workshop, ha ha, because joke's on you, Indominus Box A is going to be made to order. Now, that being said, you probably is going to be a little delayed before you get it. You're not going to get it at the 25th when it hits stores, but you'll still be able to get one and not at the $300 to, and I've seen as far as $700 price gouging for this box set. It was insane.
My thing is, they should have seen this coming. If they still do not the fact that it sold out so quickly, like in 15 minutes it was, we are out of stuff. How could you not know this was not going to sell?
I think they do, and I'm trying to think as a business model. Usually when a company sells out of a box set, right, they will remake, let's say, the same number. But the thing is that everybody who wanted one the first round, they got theirs. So it's kind of hard to project how many more you really need to make so you don't have too much inventory sitting on your shelves. Also, you have to take into account those people who do buy several boxes and sell them off as well. If people are getting them through those sources, then how many boxes are you not going to sell because of that? And it's just hard to project. So I get this. Now, what I say is that they should have had both the launch and the made to order done at the same time. So if they ran out, there's somewhere else for you to click immediately. And I think that would have been a better option for it. And maybe they didn't think they're as popular as they were, because I heard sources that said that they made more Indominus box sets than they made the Dark Imperium. And they thought they were good to go with the projected figures. But it just surpassed anything that they ever could imagine when it comes to the Indominus box. I guess the hype was just right as a company. And I mean, they made money. They made bank on this one. It's such a good box. That's why.
Yeah, that's the real. It's because it's becoming where their boxes are going to be boxes like this are going to be outselling their base product because it is such a good value. That everyone's going to want to get it, just because not only are the models great, but what you're getting is going to be such a good deal if you play either of those two armies.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And the other thing is that as our friend Scott said, he got it because there might be characters in it that will never be released ever again. And so you're kind of have that thing of, well, I have to get this because who knows if these characters are ever going to be able, if I'm ever going to be able to get them again.
Right.
So it's like they're kind of, it's kind of like an evil genius plan of GW has put the fear of God in everyone that if they don't get this now, they're never going to get this good a deal again. So if you have the faintest interest in it, better buy it.
Definitely FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah, absolutely. But I wouldn't get this. The way I look at it, this is weird. Every time I get a fantasy set and I get another box set and another box set and another box set, I say, well, I mean, I could always play a sci-fi RPG and use these models in for some reason and fit this in there or use it for a dual purpose. That's my justification. I don't think the justification is accurate, but hey, you know what? It makes me feel good about my purchase. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Some of the characters, they do that. They don't release it because it's already in the box set. And a lot of people just buy one half of a box set as well. They sell those too. And I can't wait to see, they usually, and they did this for the Dark Imperium, is they released the First Strike box set and they released another box set as well, like an intermediate box set that has all these figures except for the main characters. And then another box set that's just a starter with alternate sculpts. So I'd be interested to see if or when they're going to come out with those. And I'd love to pick them up because, you know, I would like some more bikes. That would be great. And some more of a lot of the characters that are in there. And plus, you know, you have chain swords. So updated blood claws all day, every day.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll release a new they might because it's 9th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they might just do a mix of both the Assault Marines and the Intercessors. Right. I don't know if they'll go like full, this is stuff from Indominus. But they might. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
I do have to say that I wonder if there's going to be a Start Collecting box that has all this lovely stuff. I don't think so, because Dark Imperium didn't have that, did they?
No.
No, the Vanguard came out.
Yeah. That, as we talked about in our last episode of 2 Days Getting to 40K, it's one of my big gripes is that the Dark Imperium box set did not become a Getting Started box, because that should have been the baseline Getting Started box for Marines.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah. Alrighty. So if you missed an Indominus box set, don't buy one from some person who wants to sell you one for $700. Just wait a couple of more weeks or so and get yourself your own box set and pay the right price, unless you are really desperate to get one in your hands as soon as possible. Or you're like me that has a pile of shame that I could be working on and waiting until I get the box set. I think this is starting to motivate me or inspire me to actually get the Dark Imperium painted up. I should start that.
Yeah, it's bad when you're like, because you, I think, are probably actually like 2 box sets behind. Because Shadow Spear and Dark Imperium.
Oh yeah, and I also got the one with the what was it? The Space Marines and was it Eldar? There was a Space Marine and I think it's Death something dead. Something
Wake the Dead.
Yeah, I got that too. The only thing is I bought the Space Marine half and they did not give me the box, so I kind of stuffed it in the Dark Imperium box set too. Like, I've had every release for Space Marines that came out since 8th edition, and I picked, if it was a box set with Space Marines in it, I picked it up, at least the Space Marine half for the most part. And I haven't painted any of that stuff, so I'm way behind.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to not talk about doing Tau and start talking about getting your Marines on. I
mean, really, if that's the case, then I don't know. Reading the that omnibus, the second one, is giving me my Space Wolves mojo back again. Although at this point, I feel like if it's not Primaris, then I'm not putting 100% attention to it. Like, I'm not giving it my all when it comes to painting it up, because I'll paint it to a decent standard. Good enough for tabletop for me, you know, but I'm not going to give it my all, especially because I know it's going to be replaced eventually. It's just going to, you know, they're moving towards Primaris everything. So what's the point?
Well, and it's not going to be replaced. It's just going to be mothballed.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I felt doing some of my stuff, is just like when I went on a crazy doing 5 Land Raiders. Mm-hmm. I put effort into them, but also I felt like I know these things some of these things are never going to see the table constantly. So why would I be putting in massive amounts of work to something that's just going to sit in the case all day?
Right. So I'm not inspired to do that. So I'm just knocking out. I'm speed painting my way through my projects right now. I have Logan Grimnar to do, which, you know, painting up fur has been quite interesting for me. It was a lot of fun, especially organic materials, because you don't have to be precise and exact. You know, if you overspray on a fur, hey, that's just a patch of fur, and it actually looked more realistic that way. It's pretty amazing. That's why I like to paint bone. That's why I like to paint any kind of organic thing, especially freehanding something with like a bone skull or something. It's kind of easy. It's pretty cool. But yeah, fur It was fun. Yeah, I have some wolfing to do, which everybody has told me that they absolutely hate the kit because it's really hard to put together. We'll see. We'll see. But I have a wolfen kit to do. I do have some Fenrisian wolves, but I think I'm going to do a giveaway on the channel because I only have his 4 and I used one for a base. So we'll see. And then I have Canis Rex to paint up, which should be actually quick for a Knight Titan for me because Canis Rex is true metallic metal, silvery gold, silvery steel, and I learned a couple of techniques on how to build a Knight Titan that I can do silvery steel quite quickly. And it comes out pretty accurate. I like the way they do that. And all I have to do is just add some rust spots here and there just to jazz it up. But it seems quite simple to be able to do Canis Rex. And I know that's like an oxymoron. So Knight Titan is supposed to take like forever. But mainly the work with a Knight Titan is the panels. So for me, when I put together a Knight Titan, I don't like to leave blank panels. And I don't want to just put the pre-made decals on them. I kind of want to make it unique, so I have to research freehand, draw freehand on paper 5 times so I can get it accurately, draw it on the actual figure, and then paint it, in most cases repaint it about 4 times over, so it has like 4 layers of paint before I actually get it to the point where I like it, and then I have to seal it up and move on to the next panel. So that's where it takes the most time, really.
Yeah, that's what I found with my Knight Titan is it's the undercarriage. It's pretty much just you can kind of just throw metals around and wash it, and it'll be good.
Oh yeah,
because a lot of it's hidden by the panels. It's the things that have color on them that really take the time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit of the FAQs, the facts up in this house. All right, so I checked up the facts. The FAQ for the Space Wolves. Selfishly, I didn't look through all the other ones. But the FAQ is just that, just answering very, very specific questions to certain scenarios that come up once every 100th time. If this occurs with this, when the moon aligns with the sun in a certain angle, what does that mean when it comes to this role? You know, kind of thing.
The one I found hilarious is, I guess there was a question about the Blade Guard unit, because I guess in the leaked rules for it, the Blade Guard unit had the thing where its shield gave them a +1 to all their saves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a 3-up invul save, so people were like, "Well,
no, that
means they have a 2-up invul save."
No, you choose one of those things. You don't.
Yeah. Well. They later clarified it's like that's a +1 to their armor save,
right?
Instead of +1 to any other save, which I just found hilarious because I'm like, the unit's not even out yet, and we've had an FAQ for it.
I mean, here's the thing, though, isn't that? I mean, to me, that would be obvious. An invul save is not going to be modified. Period.
The thing is, you could there are things that allow you to modify invul saves.
Okay.
Like the Eldar have a spell that allows them to modify up their invul save. Also, I think Magnus does.
But that's Magnus, though.
Yeah. So there are certain things. So it wasn't out of the realm of reason. I think the big thing was it was giving these Blade Guard a 2-up invul save.
Does do any Space Marines have that modification to invul save, or is it just Magnus?
I'm not even quite sure on that. I know that pretty much across the board, the most your invul save can get is a 3-up.
Right. So
people were thinking, oh, if these guys have a 2-up invul save, they're going to be stupid tough to kill.
Yeah, exactly. And only Bjorn the Fell-Handed should have that. I'm just saying.
It was all because of the way it was worded with the shields. It was adds +1 to any other save.
Right.
And that has been in the past been able to be what, like with the Eldar spell, it's add +1 to any save.
What I do.
So that could be armor, invul, whatever. So, but this case, it was meant to be it adds +1 to your armor save, and you have a 3+ invul.
Right. So what I do like is that people are asking some very specific questions Not just because they need the clarification, but it could also be that they don't want an opponent misunderstanding the rule and then using it against them. So they're playtesting, and they are actually coming up with clarifications early on. So I like that. So this way is less debate on the table. You know, it's more just having fun with your plastic miniatures. And that's what I'm all about. I just want to roll some dice and have some fun with the miniatures and not debate or split hairs about things.
Yeah, I like it when they clarify things. I just feel like sometimes sometimes they clarify things very fast, and that's good for them. But other things they kind of leave open-ended for too long. And I'm like, if you can clarify it, clarify it.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter if it comes up a lot or whatever. Just if at least one person asks it, that's one person too many.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And I feel like if it's something like, say, if it's a question that comes up on their the community Facebook page, and someone asks it, and there's a clarification for it on that page, that should be something that should be in the FAQ.
Oh yeah,
because I know that. Like, a lot of times people will be like, well, I asked this, and if you find my comment on the Facebook page, you'll see that they replied and made the ruling.
Right.
And my argument is that's not an official ruling. Unless it's in the FAQ, you can't expect people to go by what a comment on a...
That could be modified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They should work that out really quickly. Maybe we should join the team for updating FAQs. What do you think?
No, as you're scrolling through this, the one thing I have to, I wish they would condense some of this in that, the fact under the 40K that you also have Kill Team and Blackstone Fortress in there, and some of them I think are, for old FAQs.
I think it's the old FAQ that some of the rulings haven't changed, I guess.
But I'm like, Shadowspear has an FAQ.
Right.
Which I'm like, that should be immediately superseded by, it's made obsolete by the new Space Marine Codex and the new Chaos Codex.
Right.
And it's also you could have and I'm like, I get why they're up there in case people need them, but it adds to kind of the bloat of rules you have there.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming.
Look, there's all the indexes.
Index Imperium, ain't that?
Just have a Legends library.
That's true.
Legends FAQ library where all the old FAQs from books that
goes to die. Yeah.
Because it's like Wake the Dead. Who is needing the FAQ on Wake the Dead?
I don't know. Somebody who's playing the game.
Yeah, but I'm like,
well, a lot of this is going to get annexed, I think, because of Ninth Ed. Once that drops, it's just going to be a lot of this stuff is going to be gone because this is all 8th edition stuff.
Well, I don't think it will. We won't see this stuff going away until the Codex. GW's Codex money-making machine starts up again.
Right.
We start seeing, because I'm pretty sure we'll see a new Marine Codex by fall, winter, and I'm guessing also a new Necron one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Space Marines were the first codex to come out from Dark Imperium, from 8th edition, so I think that's definitely the way they're going to go.
Well, it just would make, because since Necrons and Marines are in the new box set,
right? Makes sense.
They both need new codex just to have the stats for all the new crap they're getting. So that's what.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to be after that? I would find it hilarious if it was Sisters.
Oh.
Just because there is a cruel irony for Sisters players to be getting new models and a new codex, and have that new codex become immediately obsolete within a year.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I don't think, well, they could do that, but that's not very smart. Oh, goodness. We're on a crusade, part 1 and part 2. Okay, so this is talking about the Warhammer 40k now immersive narrative-driven crusade rules. So you can see some of that now. You read through this, Mason. Why don't you take us to the lead? What is crusade?
Mason read through what now?
The crusade?
I haven't read through this.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you did.
No.
We'll discover it together. Okay, so this is a campaign system. You got to muster your crusade force. So you have to have a total power rating of no more than 50. Starting supplies or limit the pooled units to be available to you. Okay, so you're limiting so it's basically like literally just almost like a kill team-ish, I think. It seems like, but this is all that. Well, yeah, it does seem very kill team-ish. I wonder if this is going to replace kill team.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure probably what they'll do is this will be oh, you've done playing kill team? Well, if you just buy a little bit more stuff, you could play crusade games.
Right. That's smart. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. So we do have pick a crusade faction. Here's one for Adeptus Sororitas, which is an example. So you have the force name, the crusade faction. The player name is Warcom because Warcom. Hashtag Warcom. Requisition points, supplies, limit, and supplies used. Okay, this is interesting. All right, here's a crusade card. We have the actual models there, their power ratings, and crusade points. I guess you gain crusade points as you win battles. Crusade goals, informations. It says here, crusade goals to purge the unclean by winning at least 10 victories against the armies from the Chaos faction, which is great if you have somebody playing with the Chaos faction. You have a buddy and you have both of the armies together and you want to play a couple of games together. It gives you a reason to play more than just one game. It's done. You have quite a few.
Well, it gives you purpose,
right?
Which I've been in a map campaign for 40k, and the kind of the one downside of this, sorry Nick if you're watching, is that you're kind of just you're pretty much kind of just fighting people at random because you're just trying to take over the table, the board. There's not really like you have an objective to, oh, I need to take this point, or oh, I need to do this. You're kind of like, all right, so we're just going to fight till one of us gets bored or whatever. At least it has you like, okay, I want to fight. I probably there's a list of these, I guess.
I think so.
Of what you want. Like, oh, I want my commander to kill 4 other commanders in hand-to-hand combat or something like that, which is cool. I like it that there's a goal and that you can kind of tailor it based on what your gaming group has in it. Because it would suck if you chose, I want to face a Chaos faction 10 times and no one's playing Chaos.
Right. Yeah, no, that would definitely stink. So they actually have Warlord traits. So you can actually use Warlord traits in a small band like that. That is pretty cool. And let's see. This one is a Warlord trait. It is 1 RP. What's a RP?
I think it's requisition point.
Okay. That works. Purchase this requisition when you add a crusade card for a character unit to your order of battle. When the character in your order of battle gains a rank, you can give that character 1 warlord trait, even if they are not your warlord in battle. This character is only considered your warlord for the purpose of this trait. This must be a warlord trait. It can have any warlord can have inspiring leader warlord trait. Alternative warlord traits can be found in other publications. Make note of the warlord trait on the unit's crusade card and add 1 to its crusade points total. 2 up instead of the character instead if the character is Titanic. This Warlord trait is permanent to this unit and cannot be removed or changed. No model can have more than one Warlord trait at the same. A Warlord trait cannot be included in more than once by any model in your order of battle. So that's pretty cool that you get to choose some Warlord traits. And here is that sexy book that I definitely want to pick up, and you said you were picking this one up as well.
Yeah, I probably will pick that up because it looks incredibly useful if you're playing Crusades.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's check out Crusade Part 2, which just came out. And, all right, so they have Paragons of Piety. I guess they're just showing off their sisters' models throughout there. They are gorgeous, I have to say, but I don't think I'm going to start a sisters' army. It's never been my thing. They're cool.
I was until I read the Plague Wars book, and I will never do a Sisters Army because those bitches killed a loyal Ultramarine servant of Ultramar, and I cannot paint up women who would be willing to gun down a loyal Ultramarine.
Oh, why? Why did they do that?
Because they thought the Emperor told them to. And so they had to break it was weird justifications for they were like, well, we're not trusting Guilliman, even though he's the son of the Emperor. We have to do our own thing. So they broke into a prison where he was holding a suspected psyker who they thought was a holy being. And because he had sent Ultramarines to Garter, they had to kill the Ultramarines.
Wow.
The great end of that book was the woman who does it stands trial, and basically Guilliman tears her a new one and says, "You are a moron." Who I think he executes her himself. But yeah, I hated Sisters after that.
Well, I mean, I can see somewhat of that because, well, Space Wolves thought that Emperor ordered Prospero being burned, and they were just trying to be loyal. But is this something they just invented on their own?
Yeah, because they were ordered by Guilliman to no, we don't do anything with this child until I come down to see her, and they're like, oh no, we're going to ignore the son of the Emperor, basically 40K Jesus, because we don't believe he's actually 40K Jesus.
So here we have some lists. Here's your Serac and Destroyer hosts, where you have your leader, you have your infantry, you have your elites, and then you have your, I don't know what the Scarab Swarms are.
Fast attack.
Fast attack. That's the lightning. That's right. So it's pretty well balanced, it seems, to fight with just a couple of figures. 3 models, 20 models. Okay, so this is a lot larger than I thought it would be.
How many models are in the Sisters?
Let's go up a sec. I'll bring it back up. Okay, so 5, 10, 20, 30, 31. That's not small at all. I thought it would be small.
Yeah, I mean, and...
That's a ton of models.
Well, and it's almost a very similar amount of models. So, because you have the Dismemberer, who is definitely much more of a beat-sticky leader than the Canoness. And you both have 20 of the foot troops. Well, no, you have the 10 of the Sisters of Battle and 10 of the Celestian Squad. And then the Seraph Squad, and then the Retributor Squad. Yeah, they're both very good starts to if you're doing a sister, an army of either side.
Right. Wow. That's a lot bigger. That's just a lot larger than I thought it would be. Yeah. That's surprising. I thought these were small little games. So now I can see that Kill Team isn't really going to go anywhere because that's much smaller. I think they said if they're doing under 50 power points, you got to do Kill Team, and then if you're doing over 300 points, then you're doing Armageddon. I think that's what they said. So they have one for each one. So I guess that kill team is not going anywhere. Good thing, because I still have kill team in the plastic that I have not opened yet. One of these days. One of these days. Once I master the rules of 40K to the point where I don't have to look at the rule book every single time I have to do anything, then I'll start running different game systems. For me, it's really difficult to learn new game systems. That's just me.
Well, it'll be just in time for them to drop the new kill team rules.
Of course.
So yeah. Basically, once you start getting the kill team, they'll drop the new rules.
Or maybe I'll just wait until they drop the new rules, and then I'll start learning kill team by the time I actually get to it, because I have a lot in my list to get done. All right, so Crusade Missions. Here's a mission: sweep and clear. Objective markers a place. Secure and sweep this mission if you control objective marker at the end of your command phase, and it remains in your control unless your opponent controls it at the end of any subsequent phase, even if you have no models arranged within it. There it is. Victory points are awarded, capture, and control. At the end of each player's command phase, the player whose turn it scores 10 victory points for each of the following conditions that they satisfy for the maximum of 30 victory points. They control one or more objective markers. They control an objective marker in the opponent's deployment zone. They control more objective markers than their opponents control. Dismisses objectives cannot be scored in the first battle round. So victory bonus, the victor can select 2 units from their army to be marked for greatness after battle instead of just 1. There's that interesting deployment zone, 9 inches from the center. Center ground is 6 inches wide. So interesting.
I like it how that they say in there that it sounds like because you can elect 2 for greatness, it means even if you lose, you still get to mark 1 for greatness.
Right.
So it's not that big a kick in the nads if you lose.
Right.
Which is kind of is with some of these campaign things where if you just have a bad start,
why bother playing?
Done.
Yeah.
It's just you might as well just kind of just pack it in and just say, well, sorry guys, I'm not
for the next couple of months. Going to play.
Yeah, because it's just you'll have units that will never be as good as the guys you're fighting are, or anything like that. And so it sounds like with this is you don't have to worry about losing units.
Right.
Which is another big thing where some of these campaigns where it's like, well, if it's dead, it's dead. You don't get it back.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so I have one bad game, and that's just all my veteran units are just done. Okay.
Here's a battlefield supremacy. At the start of your first command phase, select 1 objective, the marker that is on the battlefield, and 1 unit from your army. If that unit gains 4 experience points after the battle, at the end of the battle, it says it is in range. If it is in range, I think, of the objective marker, and you control that objective marker. All right, so you're just saying, basically your unit is pointing at the objective saying, yeah, that's mine. And then you're going to have to actually do it. It's sort of like a baseball player saying, yeah, this is going to be a home run.
I would have gotten there if we had enough time.
Right? I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Scooby-Doo reference. That's right. Oh, that painting is gorgeous, though. I mean, the angelic feel of the Sister Sororitas is absolutely amazing. I like the aesthetic. I like the aesthetic. I can't wait for one of you guys to don this the Sisters Army and come in to play. I'm not going to be the one, but
I already have Drakari in my sights. So.
I despise painting white hair. I just do. I just do. Yeah, no bueno.
My thing is just that with the new Sisters, they have a lot of the fire effects already on the model.
Oh, yeah, and they never look totally awesome. They're very fake.
Yeah, and I like the new models over the old ones, but I feel like I like more of the gothic-y look.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely have they do have a really nice line. I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to start one personally. All right, Necrons. I like this coppery feel to it. I think when I paint up my Necrons, they're gonna be copper. That'd be kind of cool to do. I'm thinking.
Yeah, Necrons they're a good place to do a lot of metal on because they're like the metal army.
Yeah.
But also I forget the scheme where they're painted up to look like it's the armor's not metal, but like kind of like a plastisteel kind of like a ceramic.
Yeah.
And the way I saw it done, it was like a dirty ceramic where like chips and stuff were in it.
Nice.
And it looked really cool.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was done.
All right. So I saw one Necron Force, which they took crackle paint and put it on, and then they painted it like desert, and it was like desert crackle. It looked pretty freaking awesome, I have to tell you. And plus, they had a couple of units of those the flayers, I think they're called. Ones? I think it's the flayed ones where they actually put body parts on top of them. Something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's the flayed ones.
Oh my gosh, it looked epic because the dried blood on the sand, they just nailed it. It looked real. It looked pretty creepy. All right. There's the Canoness Ava Pureheart and the Seraphim Squad, which are their heavy weapons unit, I guess. I see. Yeah. They're the Devastator squads.
So the one thing, like just a little caveat thing I'd like to say here is GW. This would have been a great opportunity if you had people like some of your staff paint these and not like the studio.
Yeah.
Like, because these are just basically, it feels like these are just pictures of, like, these are the pictures of the models that will appear on the store page.
Right.
And it would have been interesting to see them actually, like, these are, like, our staff's custom versions of...
Right. Order the Bloody Rose kind of thing, different kinds of factions. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, because I think there's another article where they talk about this is our, like our patrol or whatever. There's an article called, like, I think this is our patrol, where they show these various patrols that were done by various members of their staff. And I'm like, that would have been cool for this article because it gives people more ideas.
Yeah.
And usually they're different colors and like just kind of little conversion stuff. And it's just interesting to see the kind of like what your staff actually that are not the heavy metal painters do.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. Definitely. And I thought with the Sister Sororitas, their models, it just looks like more of the same. I don't know. It just kind of it looked great. The first 15 models that looked exactly the same, but just with different weapons, I guess. I don't know. It just looks very samey.
That was all that's been like kind of always the Sisters thing, is that pretty much it's their kind of various things are just sisters with just like given different weapons. And it's not like kind of like Marines where they kind of look kind of different.
Right.
It's like, okay, we've given these sisters heavy weapons.
Right.
Okay, we've given these sisters jetpacks and bolt pistols.
Yeah, it's the same gear, the same type of helmet with the white. I see that in there. Or just, and everybody just goes to basically the same stylist of you have 3 cuts. You have 3 cuts if you're a sister. That's all you get. Who cuts their hair anyway? I wonder.
I think they cut it themselves, probably.
Oh, okay. Sister Cutiticus. I don't know if that's right. I don't know. Sister Salonicus. I'm sorry, I couldn't help that one. All right. From Sister Salonicus, let's get back to viewer mood. Going back. I do want to give a shout out to our Patreon member. That is Mike McBroom. Thank you so much for signing up for our Patreon member. If you'd like to get a shout out yourself, then link down in the description. Also, there are various different ways in which you can support the channel down there. If you don't support the channel that way, that's fine. Sharing is the kind of thing you can do.
Unless it's VD.
Unless it's that, yeah. Don't. Or COVID. Don't share any disease, okay? Please. Please. Thank you. Be safe. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. All right. Play Warhammer. Both AOS and 40K. There you go. And life would be better. I think if everybody played this game, I think we'd all be better people. It's like, hi, we have frustration. Well, let's take it out on the table. End of story.
Who needs politics when you can argue over a board game?
Right? That's what I'm saying. If you're the better strategist, then yeah, there you go. Let's put those political ideas into effect. End of story. Go policy. I know the world would be very grimdark. All right. Thank you so much, Mike McBroom, for supporting our channel. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So let's get into the main topic of the day. And the main topic of the day actually came out of a conversation that I had this Saturday, which I didn't expand upon. Sometimes when I hear something, it takes me a while to really digest it and analyze it to the point where I was like, okay, let me formulate some ideas about this. So one of the statement was said that basically I have a melee focused army as being the Space Wolves because of the units that I had painted up. And the reason why I painted up the units, not because I formulated any list. In fact, I never played the game. I painted the army before I even knew how to play the game. And I really just loved the figures and painting the figures. I thought they would be cool to play as well. And I was informed that if I don't have a Shooty list, I then came up with the knights that I thought I was going to build up a knight with, since Mason's Knight did so well on the battlefield that I thought I was going to paint up a knight to be, you know, just melee, straight melee focused. And, you know, it was right, the advice that they gave me, you should not do that because it will just be shot off the board, turn one, end of story, and would make an interesting diversion unit. But it does make sense because if I saw a Knight Titan on the field, I'm going to try to shoot it and get it out of the way because I don't want that thing wrecking my face. You know, it'll be out of fear. So that makes total sense. But looking at the larger scheme of things, the idea came out, do you need to have a shooting army in order to have a good time in 40K in general? Like, let's apply it to the entire game, not just this one instance, you know. So do I have to cater to that in order to have a good time? So there's a couple of things that I came up with this because since, especially mine, because it's basically a melee focused army, that it just means that I'm going to lose every fight that I get into every time I play my list, only because I'm a melee focused army. I'll never have the chance to reach my opponent. I'll never have the chance to do all the special abilities that my faction have. And I found it disheartening at first. Who has the advantage? Mason, who has the advantage? A Shooty army or a melee army? Let's start there.
Shooty Army.
A shooting army. And why is that?
So I've thought about this, and the main thing is that it's just kind of just the history of warfare, where in the medieval times we had melee fighting and all that, but once you get the gun, you start to see kind of melee going away and basically eventually be kind of becoming like a non-entity. I mean, you still have kind of close combat in the sense of like World War I, you had trench fighting and all that, but it wasn't like you saw guys charging across the like artillery shelled trenches holding a sword and a shield. They're like, they got a shotgun, submachine gun, a bayoneted rifle, something like that. And so when we go all the way to 40K, we have the kind of this issue of this is supposed to be like high sci-fi, where you have these giant armored warriors firing these massive guns that fire rocket shells out of them that blow a human apart with one hit. And how are you supposed to make it so that those feel powerful, but also have guys with giant fists be able to get into combat? And it's because almost everything has a shooting element to it in 40. Like even like the only thing that has no shooting weapons are NIDs that have a melee unit that's a sole melee unit, or NIDs. That I think it's the Hormagaunts. But everything, like if even the current assault marines, the new Primaris assault marines, they have a bolt pistol,
right,
which is shooting.
Right.
If the Terminators, which have power fists, have a Stormbolter, which is shooting.
Right.
So it's kind of everything has shooting. So that's kind of why it means that shooting is always good. Also, the fact is melee is harder to do than shooting. Because with shooting, all I have to do is if I can see you, I can hurt you. With melee, it's if I see you, I now have to get close enough to you and lucky enough that I can get my charge off to start touching you and hopefully be survived enough to kill you when I get there.
Right.
And I think that's why I think that you kind of have to lean a little bit heavier. Why I said shooting.
Well, it does make sense as far as the historical aspect of it. Absolutely. But we have to do I'm just playing both sides of the coin here. I analyze both and then make my decision at the end. So in the sci-fi trope, I'm looking at Star Wars individually. You do have melee units, being the Jedi, who don't use pistols at all, and they're BA. So the question is, do we make the weapons more powerful that it's worth the risk of charging and going through all that to get there?
So the thing I would argue against that for the Jedi is that yes, they are badass, but if there is a scene in the third movie I think it's the I forget what the third one's called, but where they issue Order 66, and they show clone troopers basically through overwhelming firepower gun down a Jedi.
Oh yeah,
because they can't block all the shots. And that to me, it's like that's kind of it's kind of what happens when you're taking a sword to a gunfight. Is that you may be able to do some fancy things if they're not all focused at you, but once they're all focused at you,
you're gone.
Eventually, they're gonna the number of shots are gonna get through, and you're gonna get gunned down.
So let's take a look at this as far as play style, though. First off, I want to talk about terrain. With the new terrain rules, and if you had, let's say, a City of Death kind of environment, which is heavily terrain, you would have a lot more cover to be able to get your melee troops into combat. So how do you think that's going to affect melee armies in the new 40K?
It's definitely going to help them, because the big thing with melee armies is that they much more than shooty armies, kind of how good they do depends on how the table's set up. Because they need stuff that blocks line of sight so they can get closer to you so they don't without getting shot, and they need stuff that doesn't slow them down. That these new terrain rules will definitely help out melee armies, especially since that it's a shorter table now. So there's a lot less of the travel time for the melee army to get there.
Right.
Which I think is helpful, but the problem is that the rules, as the way the rules stand, it's still very hard to deliver melee troops to the battle. That even with terrain, that's not something that you can reliably. It's hard when you're having to rely on terrain, which is a random aspect for your strategy.
Right. That's definitely hurting melee units. But as I see it, if we just rely on shooting, every army is going to start looking the same, no matter what you take. It's all going to be a ton of, let's say, Hellblasters as your infantry, and you just have a line of Hellblasters and just shooting each other, end of story. And the thing is what's preventing everyone just to get Tau and, just Tau? Why doesn't everybody just get Tau if they're superior at shooting, and shooting is what's going to win you games? Then it's just going to be very, very one-dimensional in my opinion.
Well, it's kind of, from what I've known of 40K is that it's kind of this escalation more between melee and shooting, where it's kind of the, you build a better mousetrap, well, someone builds a better mouse. And so what kind of happens is that now we will see, like, melee will be good for a while, but then it will become too good, and we'll switch back over to shooting being good. And then shooting will be good for a while, and then we'll switch back over to melee. And it's just, they're having a hard time trying to find a happy medium where shooty armies don't feel like that the melee armies are just always getting in to assault them, and they're like, well, I can't do anything because as soon as he's on the board, he's in my face and has me all locked down and just slaughters me wholesale. But we also, the melee guys don't want to be like, I move up on the board, he shoots me to pieces, I pack up my stuff and go.
Right. And that's it. So, and that's interesting that you said that there's a pendulum that switches from one to the other. So, has melee armies or melee in general been so good that it was better to have, at any point in time, it was better to have a melee list than it was to have a shooty list? Because I thought it was always one-sided. Like, it was always a shooty list. That's what you take. That's the advantage. End of story.
So it wasn't that way in 7th and in the older editions. So I never played 7th, but I watched a lot of 7th battle reports while I was painting all my stuff to play in 8th. But in 7th, there were a couple things that made melee better than it is now. One of the things is there was a additional stat called initiative. And every unit had its own initiative. And the way combat worked was you would go, and whoever had the highest initiative would fight first. You'd work your way down to initiative 1. So you could be charged, but if you had the higher initiative, you would still fight first.
Oh, wow.
And usually the way like, say, for instance, Howling Banshees would have a high initiative. So they would fight first. But they would not be as good in melee as others. Say they're fighting Terminators. Well, Terminators would go last because they had Power Fists. Because Power Fists at that time would make you initiative 1.
Right.
But also they hit like a truck. And so it was things like that where it was like, if you, it kind of gave melee not this whole, I have to charge because that's like how it gave it more of a, just because you got charged didn't mean it's all over.
Right. Second
is that there were rules where you could have melee weapons that just instantly killed stuff. Because if you were, I don't know if it was like double the toughness of, like, if your strength was double the toughness of a model, you just instantly killed them.
Oh, wow.
if they so that's what made Power Fist so great, is because you could, like, if you were facing like a certain character, you could just, didn't matter how many wounds they had, if they failed that save, they became mulch.
So Martius Calgar was an absolute beast.
Yeah, like there were some where I think there were some Necrons I saw that, but yeah, it was like there were some characters where it was just like, oh, I got into your, like, I'm just taking battle suits left and right because it instant kills them.
Right.
And in 7th, deep striking and in like getting your units to the battle was much, it made much more sense. So like deep striking, you could possibly deep strike very close to your enemy and be able to get the charge off. There wasn't this whole kind of 9 inch you can't go anywhere near me bubble.
Right.
And you had units like the Land Raider, which had assault ramps, which allowed you to move up, have your units come out of there and charge out of the Land Raider.
Nice.
So like the Land Raider Crusader, like it had the assault launchers. That was because it was designed to, you rolled up on the enemy formation and your Terminators or whatever all piled out and piled into the enemy.
Nice.
Which you can't do that now because the rule states like you cannot charge after you exit a vehicle.
Right.
So it kind of limits a lot of this, things that used to take the assault troops to the battlefield. You can there's no longer a reason really for that, because it would take, you basically would have, it'd take you 3 turns. You move your thing up. It has to wait there because you can't deploy after you move.
Right.
Second turn, they get out. They can move, but they can't charge. And then third turn, they can charge and hopefully have survived all that. But in 7th, you kind of you didn't have all of that. So there was a lot more risk of your guys could be teleported into the walls and died. But if you got that teleport off where your 10-man Terminator squad came down behind enemy lines and was able to get into them, they would wreck face.
Yeah, I see that. Well, that gives me hope. I've only played 8th edition. I've never seen 7th edition ever get played. And from my aspect of gaming, you have a Shooty Army or you're dead. And the story. And coming from a person who has a melee list, that stinks for me. I'm just going to lose every game I'm with. Because I never really got to wreck too many things with my melee army. But yeah, and this is why I'm looking at Tau right now, because if shooting is king, that and getting a battalion attachment and having 6 units of Hellblasters as my infantry unit. I mean, just there's a shield. There's a wall.
You can't take Hellblasters as infantry.
I thought they take the infantry. I saw that they had the keyword that says infantry on my Space Wolves codex, unless they FAQ'd that and I didn't see it.
Well, infantry might be, they're not a troop. There's a difference between infantry and like they can have the infantry keyword. Okay. But if they're not troops, they don't count as a troop choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Hellblasters are a heavy support choice.
So how many can you have then? I'm trying to remember.
It depends on your battalion.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
Most 40, but
okay, that's about right.
That's if you're taking 4 squads of 10.
That sounds about right. It'd be like the only way I'll be able to win a game.
But it's like the Thunderwolves in 7th edition were the bomb.
Yeah.
Because with the Thunderhammers, since they instant killed stuff, they, like if they got into even heavy infantry, they were just like, "Oh, hi Terminators, sorry, you just stopped existing."
Wow.
And then because I think Thunderhammers had a thing where they did like glancing damage to vehicles.
Ooh.
Basically through number of glancing hits to vehicles, they could just glance a vehicle to death.
That would make me want to paint them a whole much more Thunderwolves.
Yeah, and so they just, because it was this just unit where it was, you had to either apply a lot of firepower to stop it getting to you, and like a lot. Like your whole round of shooting was like just pouring fire into these wolves, hoping to bring them down because they had a 3-up save.
Wow, yeah, because
like all that stuff.
Storm shields,
yeah, storm shields and all that. And but if they it's why also like Wolfen back then were good because you gave a Wolfen a thunder hammer and a storm shield, and they just get into your lines and they're just like, we go nuts, just murdering everything we were in combat with. Also, if we die, we fight again.
Well, oh yeah, that last fight before they go.
Yeah. So it was with a thunder hammer where it's like, yeah, we're doing some shit. Like that was how melee was back then.
Right.
Like there were certain units that just, if they got in there, just shredded stuff.
That makes more sense. See, I never experienced that.
Yeah, like I always remember one game where it was Thunderwolves and Wolfen, and you could just like every battle where they were like, I'm targeting the Thunderwolves because I do not want them to get into my line. Because they're like, if they get in my line, I'm done because they will just tear through everything I have.
Then it would make sense to have a melee focused Knight Titan in your group because they would not be targeting that, and he'll start running up the field. And at that point, hopefully their Thunderwolf cavalry is completely eliminated before you do that. But you see, that makes sense. Now, when I paint up a miniature, I don't paint it up for the short term. What I mean by that is I don't paint a unit because it's good in the meta now. I paint up a unit because I think it's cool, and in the next 10 years, if it ever becomes good, I will definitely take it out and have some fun with it. So now that I know that there's a pendulum, that they keep on swinging back and forth, that melee would come into vogue at some point, and it doesn't want me to just like, hey, you just wasted part of your life painting up all these models. They're useless.
Yeah, so like at the start of 8th, the meta list for Marines was you took 4 Storm Raven gunships, that and a Smash Captain. That was the tournament list.
That's just gross.
And the thing was that was the meta list for about 3 months, and then an FAQ came out and changed it. So it's kind of it. I feel like that's kind of like highlights why chasing a meta is not always the best idea, because all it takes is one FAQ or one general handbook to make it that what you have built is now not good anymore.
Also, that's why a lot of the people chasing that meta, their armies look like total garbage, just barely minimally painted just so they can get on the field. Their enjoyment is crushing other people, period.
Yeah. And it like, if you're a tournament player, more power to you. But the thing for me is that, as you said, a lot of the tournament players, they are either the 3 minimum or they have just done 3 various colors of rattle can.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the good thing for us people who like to paint is they will sell their army when it's not meta anymore really cheap. Yeah. And then you can repaint it.
Yep. No, I can see. I seen a tournament player play a game once, and they had Tau, and when their unit died, they literally picked it up in their 2 fingers, like pincer style, and they chucked it across the room right into their box. They're like, oh well, the pieces break off. Who cares? I'm like, no. I just want to be able to have an army, even if it's melee, and maybe not melee is not the strongest right now, that I don't rush to paint a whole bunch of shooty infantry or create a shooty list just for the purpose for it to be good right now. I do have those units. But I want to be able to paint them at my own leisure because I enjoy it, not because I feel like I am never going to win if I don't do this. Like, I don't know. Is there a way to balance that, to have games where if somebody's bringing a melee list, maybe not have like insta-kill people that'll just shoot you off the table, modify a list, take some more melee-centric units yourself, and see if you can battle it out on the field? The thing what I love the most, well, one of the things I love the most is honor duels. That's amazing, where two warlords get in the middle of the battlefield and duke it out, and just to find out who's the best. That's awesome. That could be an idea for a show, Mason. We can have two warlords just fight it out. Who would win? Because you never see it on the battlefield anymore. Very rarely.
There is a Vigilus mission that has that.
I have it.
It works really well for the characters they have, which is Calgar and Abaddon fighting each other. Works less well when it's Ahriman and a Farseer. My Farseer did do well. She held out, but she needed the 25 wounds that the scenario gave her to hold out as long as she did.
Well, it would kind of be fun. It's fun because it'd be like a match of the warlords. I don't know. We'll just throw them at her. And if it's a shooty warlord, like a tower or something like that, we could put him quite a few paces away that I'd have to still run in and charge. But just the warlords together, you know, that would be kind of cool. I think we should do that. That would be a great, fun, easy to videotape show that we can pull together and see what we can do. Maybe have best 2 out of 3 or something and see what happens with that.
All right, so it'll be my Knight Warlord versus...
Oh, nice. Of course. Oh, man.
And don't say Age of Sigmar, because I'll just say, well, then it will be my Star Drake.
Of course, it would be the Star Drake, wreck face of all wreck versus Nagash, I guess. Ooh, I got to paint up Nagash now. You know, I do have a lot of AOS figures that I really need to paint. I really need to paint. I could do the Night Haunt. I can have a full army of that. And then I do have the Battle Tome for the Legions of Nagash, and I do have that. And I do have Nagash, which 3 years ago when I got it, I told my son that I was going to paint him. It's been 3 years, and I just never felt good enough to paint him. That was my big thing. It's like, I want to do it justice. It is the Lord of the Undead. It is an absolutely phenomenal model. And I just want to Richard Gray that. I want to Richard Gray all over that. Like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Bill Bloop is another one. Fan of his Nagash. Oh my gosh. And there was one, although it was grayscale and it was entered in, I would say, Crystal Brush before it went away. And it was Nagash sitting on the throne, and they had this vampire thrall just putting up a bloody sword in homage to him. And it was epic. It was epic.
I think that won a Slayer Sword.
Oh, okay. So that was a Slayer Sword winner.
Yeah, that's my favorite Nagash.
I mean,
it's like...
did you see his throne? It's all flesh eater quartz going through. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is suitably epic. But the interesting, so with AOS, it brings up the interesting. So you talk about shooting. So what the power of shooting also came up and was apparent in AOS for a while.
Okay.
In Caradhran Overlord's drop.
Ooh.
Which KO is a majority shooting army.
Right.
And their shooting was so powerful that they basically had to nerf it to the ground, because guess what? When I can do damage from you and not have you get close to me, I could do a lot of damage while you're on the way to get close to me.
Right.
Also, I'm on ships that can fly very fast.
Yep. They could just get out of the way, shoot some more.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so it's kind of, it's that shooting. I wouldn't say that like you can't. Also, melee is in general, it's a harder thing to get good at than it is shooting. Mostly because melee relies a lot on positioning and movement, and kind of being able to kind of tactically read the situation and all that. And just shooting's much more forgiving in that I just point my gun at you and you die.
Right.
So I think that's another reason why probably like especially probably I would say like tournament players rely on shooting, because if melee is good but it requires a lot of brain power for you to use, and you're going 3 rounds at a tournament,
you're exhausted.
You were like, I want something that I don't have to think. And I remember I was listening to, I think, some podcast or something where the guy, he took a night list to a 40K tournament. And he said, the reason I took this is I knew I was going to be going 3 rounds, and I just didn't want to have to like just be brain dead by the end of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, night list, I basically push forward and just start shooting stuff, stomping on stuff, and just trying to wreck house.
Right. And
the buddy he was on with ran a Drukhari. I think it was either Drukhari or Harlequins. And that guy said, I'm envious of you because I was just burnt out by game 2.
Right.
And I had another game to go. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like, depending on what your army is, some require a lot more thought than others. And it just alone, if you have melee, you're then have to be in that, and because you'll probably also have melee and shooting. So now you're having to think about, well, what do I shoot at? And also, what are my melee units going for, instead of just, well, what do I shoot at?
So for people who don't know, it's about 4 hours per game. I would say 12 hours of playing and thinking mathematically and strategy and command points usage. And yeah, that is such a strain on the brain. So didn't they divvy it up in a couple of days though? It's not 1 tournament a day. It's just 3 back-to-back. I've done the 3 back-to-back before.
Yeah, some tournaments, it depends on, so like, the only tournament I've really been on, it wasn't for 40K, it was for Team Yankee, was you did the 3 games. Basically, it was like a game every 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And after the end of that, that's when they called it.
Wow.
And that, like, some tournaments split it up for, like, they do 2 rounds the first day, final round the next day. The problem, the big thing, and this is deviating into tournament talk, but from what I've heard about tournament organizing stuff, the thing is that it's hard to keep everyone involved for all the games. Yeah. Because at some point there are going to be people who are like, if they don't win their first game, they're like, well, I can't win if I can't place. Right. What's the point? No point in me playing the other 2 games. I'm just going to leave. Or there are people who are like, well, I've played the 2 games. There's no way I can either place or get anything. I'm just going to head home a day early because I have a 4-hour drive or whatever home. Right. And so that's why a lot of them do like it 3 in all one day. But then there are people who are like, well, I'm burnt out if I do 3 in one day. So they're like, oh, we'll split it up. And it's and then with tournaments, there's I was a behind the scenes guy for a Kings of War tournament, and there's just so much like there's so much kind of stuff that goes up where they're like weighing, well, how much do we weigh painting versus like how it's kind of the constant thing of the argument came up of, well, even though he's not well painted, do we want painting to decide who gets awards in the end? Right. If it's for playing and all this stuff, tournaments are just a very complicated thing, both just to run, and also to play in. Because like even with the Team Yankee one, I had a packet of like 10 pages that were all the various missions that could happen. Oh wow! And it was like, come up with one army list to do all of these. And I'm like, I'd never played a tournament list, so I just threw some crap together. Right. But I haven't done a 40K tournament. Well, I have done. I was the ringer in some of them, but it's 40K tournaments are just very, well, just tournaments in general are just very kind of, because you're trying to be on all the time. Yeah.
Well, there's some narrative campaign tournaments that seem fun, that they're not totally competitive and just scenario based, which would be interesting. But we talk about tournaments because what comes into tournaments is usually that shooty list. And so what you're saying is right now, as it stands, you would need more of a shooty list in order to survive the 41st millennium. As current things go, although terrain, it makes it more helpful. If you have dense terrain, and now with all the terrain rules makes it more helpful to get into combat, you don't want to see combat or melee be overpowering to the point where the Shooty's armies are not going to have a chance to be able to pull some of the stuff off. So finding that balance is key, and since it is a pendulum that swings both ways, that right now having a shooty list would be okay, but if you have a melee list, even though it's going to be a little tough going right now because there's a lot of negatives, you can hold out and possibly fight somebody else who has a melee list and see what happens after the slugfest is over.
Well, and the thing is, we don't have the new codexes yet.
Right.
And I remember, so when 8th dropped and they were trying to basically spew out new codexes for everyone, basically armies that were good but were bad became amazing as soon as their codex dropped.
Yeah.
Because,
then they got nerfed.
Marines were good when their codex came out, but then became awful when the Guard and other codexes came out. Orcs were almost were really down there until their codex came out, and then suddenly orcs are amazing. And so it's just this thing where it's they may be, it's kind of the thing of it, they may be bad now,
right?
But it doesn't mean it's going to be bad in the future.
Right. So if you do have a melee focused army, don't feel bad. Save heart. Our time will come. You may want to invest in a couple more shooty units, maybe some Hellblasters if you have a Marine army, just for now to tide you over. Goes a long way. And then invest in painting up some terrain, and hopefully you and your partner, the one who's playing against you, would be able to agree that you'd have a little more terrain on your battlefield to make it a little better. Again, you don't want to give the advantage to the melee army as well and having so dense of a terrain that nobody can get a shot off, because then that's no fun either. Some balance in the middle where you can agree upon, so it doesn't feel like everybody's just getting blasted off the table into the story. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. Also, as far as balancing the game and stuff like that, I believe, and this is my belief, that it is a game after all, and these are toy soldiers that we're placing on the battlefield. So you have to suspend the belief of absolute reality to an extent. And I feel that you shouldn't be punished if you like the aesthetic of, let's say, Grey Knights. And I know you can't deep strike in the first turn, which makes them really not that great. But if you love Grey Knights and you got into the 40k hobby and you've never been in the 40k hobby, I don't think that a new player like that should be punished for liking a faction.
Yeah, I think the main thing is every faction should be kind of easy to get into. Yeah. And if you get kind of what you like and put a list together that way, you should be able to do decently.
Right.
As it is right now, there are some factions where it is harder to do that than others.
Yeah.
And that you have to, Grey Knights, where unless you kind of know what you're doing when you're building the list, you might end up having a bad time.
Right.
Right. And the thing is that some armies do it, and it's kind of where certain armies do better at lower points values than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of something to be aware of when starting out, is that there are some armies that are amazing at low point levels, like Necrons.
Yeah,
I think when my friend told me, it's like Necrons and Eldar are amazing at that 1,000-point level.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they have the Necrons is because of their resurrection skill, it's just more amplified at that lower point level. And the Eldar, because they just have so many cheap options that are, like, the glass cannons do much better at that lower point level when they're not trying to have to survive a full 2,000 point onslaught.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that there was varying effects of efficiency at different point levels, so it would be better. That's interesting to know too, especially for the beginner player who's trying to get in and just to have a good time and play with their buddies and stuff like that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do play those people who are just starting out and they have a very thematic list, do not crush them. Don't crush them. You don't have to take your elite tournament list to crush people. And if you do, you can either lose a player to the hobby, to have one less army to play with, or just show what the community is all about. Yeah, we're just about our own ego and crushing things. That's not cool.
Yeah, you'll either drive the person from the hobby, or you have at least made them so that they never want to play you anymore.
Right. Yeah. Then you'll be isolated, one or the other.
Yeah. So either way, you're down. There's one less person you can play against.
Right. Right. Either it's yourself or the other player. So yeah, if you see somebody come up with an inspired list, like, tone it down a little bit. Meet somewhere in the middle. Let it be a close game. You don't see. I don't want to win. I just want to have a close game and come down to a dice roll and like, oh my gosh, and I'm nervous and it's exciting because I'm waiting on the dice roll, and if it works out, then yeah, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, then okay, it was a great game. It was exciting either way. Just getting smacked off the table is like, what's the point of even being there?
Yeah, those aren't fun games.
No, they're not. They're not. Just public service announcement. So right now, having a Shooty list is better. But if you have a melee focus army, do not lose heart. GW is working on that, especially if your codex drops right before it gets FAQ'd and nerfed.
Feel like now it's you just you can do like 50-50, 60-40 shooting melee.
Yeah.
Like, just don't, as of right now, kind of even with everything, is don't be like, I am taking nothing but melee, and then be like, well, melee sucks because I got shot off the board. Well, if you had some shooting to suppress the positions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as far as my shooting, I only have long pangs. I have a knight that has shooting. That's about it. I know.
Some Primaris. You need like a Redemptor, and
I have all that. I do. Actually, I do have a Redemptor Dreadnought. I'm going to add that to my list. Yeah, I do. I have that easy to build Redemptor, and I made it Wolfy. And so I'm going to bring that. But as far as the Primaris, the second I build Primaris, I will take Logan Grimnar if it's not painted and trash it, because I'm never going to build it. There's no point. I'll trash it or sell it, put it as a scenic base for another army. I don't know. Something like that, because I'll never build it. Same with the Wolfen. I will not touch it. Once I do a Primaris, not painting anything but Primaris. I'm not going back. So that's that. So that's the way I am. I don't know. I have this one project to do. Once I'm done with this project, I can actually finally attack the Dark Imperium. Or actually just 40 units of Hellblasters, which you just told me. There we go. Not 40 units. 4 units of 10. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, and then, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 10 Hellblasters all crowded around a banner and a captain.
There you go. Will do. I mean, no, I won't, because that's a nasty list, and I don't want to ever subject anyone to that list. Although, I'm sure you have an answer to that.
Well, the thing is that it would be a nasty list, and then an FAQ comes out, and you're like, well, I now have 30 Hellblasters I'm not going to use.
I mean, I have 40 to 60 intercessors. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I have no idea.
Those are line troops. You can all, but it's kind of that thing of like, you can paint them up for a list, but then at some point you're going to, it's like, well, I've done this once. The joke is over. I don't need the 40 Hellblasters anymore.
You can always use the 40 Hellblasters as Christmas ornaments.
or for the Apocalypse game.
Well, yeah, very true. I do have 2 Apocalypse box sets back there. I did not get the Apocalypse game, but maybe my Space Wolves will get that large eventually. If I paint up all the ones that I have, if I paint up all my Primaris right now, yeah, I'm just gonna have to get a new cabinet and just have one cabinet for my Space Wolves.
That's pretty much where I was with my Ultramarines. I have 2 of the 1520s of Battle Foam, with 1 expansion on one of them for all my Ultramarines.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. All right. Well, there you go. There you go. There's another show in the, because at first when I heard the statement that, you just need a Shooty list, I felt like everything I painted was invalidated and I felt a little crushed. So I didn't say anything. I digested it. And I'm like, I see what you're saying. I always take both sides of an issue. I don't just, all right, this is my opinion, that's it. I was like, okay, let me hear your side, So it's good that we had to mull this over. I was disheartened at first, but knowing that there is hope.
Yeah, I think the statement was more of you need to paint some shooting to put in it.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have something, because if all your stuff is melee and all I have to shoot is at melee,
yeah, I'm gonna die.
It's kind of going to be hard. But if you have some stuff that's at range that I can shoot at that acts as a distraction, then that gives it the melee time to get into melee.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. Absolutely. So thank you for shedding light on that subject. So there it is. There's another show. Any closing thoughts, Mason?
Enjoy the game. Doesn't matter if you like melee or shooting. You can probably build a list, and at least some point in the edition it'll be good.
40-60.
Yeah, just buy random stuff, put it together, paint it. GWs, the rules are so loose, you'll be able to field something with it.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I usually do. Yep. Follow your heart. Find cool people to game with, and just roll some dice and have some fun. Paint up some minis. Alrighty, so this is another show in the bag. Thank you everyone for joining us here on the Skull Session. We're going to be working on that battle report tomorrow, which is really a lot of fun. I'm excited to get that done. And follow your heart, follow your dreams, and have some fun. Play yourself some Age of Sigmar and 40k. Alright, well, if you like this Skull Session, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.